Hey, great day, everyone. Hello to those who are catching this in the replay, and hey to y'all who are catching this live. If you guys are on, just pop in the comments and say hey, let me know you're here. But my name is Jerisha Hawk. If this is your first time catching one of my live streams, or if you're new to me, hello and welcome. I'm an income strategist, business coach, and host of a very successful iTunes podcast called Jerisha Said. And I help online, service-based business owners create and sell a signature service consistently without, overly complicated sales funnels, really just using live stream video and sales calls. But today I want to talk about, the myth of the successful one-person business, because I think so often many of us right now are solo business owners. We're out here, the solopreneurs. We had this idea of starting a business, and it's just, you're running this one woman or one man show. And I think sometimes as we are progressing or looking for opportunities on where we can grow in our business, there's this internal resistance or this fear that can creep up in the sense of, I have to keep doing this the way I've been doing it. Like I have to be out here doing this for myself, by myself. I'm, Miss INDEPENDENT. Do you know about me? Like we take this pride and this independence. And I was reflecting on this last night, actually in one of my one of the coaching programs that I'm in. I started a thread and we were having a conversation. And I think that it's just so important for us to take a moment, regardless of where you're at in your life or where you're at in your business. Like you did not get to where you are right now alone. And that is okay. Like even if you go back to like birth, like when we were children and nobody just expected us to come out of the womb knowing how to walk, knowing how to feed ourselves, knowing how to clothe ourselves. Like the first person that we had in our life that helped make us successful was either your parents or whoever your care provider was, right? Like just basic things that I think that we completely forget about is like none of us were out here like perfect or successful out of the gate with no assistance. And even successful in the sense that we know how to write, we know how to speak whatever native language you speak right now, the fact that you know how to clothe yourself, bathe yourself, you know how to walk. We had somebody in our life that taught us just those basic skill sets out of the gate, right? And then as we continue to grow up, like as we become toddlers and we become adolescents and we get into elementary school, where, nobody expected you to be successful, knowing all the things that we learned in elementary school, middle school, and high school, right? How many teachers did we have that educated us? At least 12. And you probably had more than that because in middle school and high school, you rotate and you have in middle school or high school, you had a different teacher for English, a different teacher for math, science, art, social studies. I had an architecture class. Like we had all these different people that poured into us, that educated us so we could become successful, right? So like even as children and getting from like age 5 to age 18, think about how many personal life coaches that you had in your life. Every one of those teachers, every one of those sports coaches, every one of your tutors, like all those people were, the government paid for that assistance. Or if you went to a private school or private education, somebody, you either gained a scholarship or your parents paid for you to go to that school. Those were all these mini coaches we had to just get us to become successful like young adults, right? We had dozens of coaches before we even graduated from high school. And I think that we forget about that, mainly probably because we didn't have to pay for it out of pocket. And it's just a different perspective of looking at that. But even in the same sense, like then we go off to college. If you chose to go to college route, or maybe you went to trade school, or maybe you went to some other type of form of education, or maybe you didn't go off to college at all. But, I did go off to college. So in order to even prepare, and I graduated with an engineering degree, right? So before I could even call myself an engineer, to get the respect of society to say that I am an engineer, and to even apply for a job, before I could even apply for a job as an engineer, I was required to go and get a degree. I had to spend thousands of dollars, like probably about 70 grand to get my engineering degree. I had to go to school for 4 years to learn the trade. I had to, I don't know how many teachers I had, probably 30 different teachers in my college education. And I paid $70,000 for 4 years of training so I could even qualify myself to apply for an engineering position. So I invested $70,000, 4 years of education with probably 30 teachers and or coaches that educated me and trained me before I could even see a return on my investment by hopefully getting a job that had a decent salary. And I say all that to say I spent the last 3 or 4 minutes explaining that because it baffles my mind when we or you decide to start a business and you think that you can be out here and just do it alone. You've never been alone a day in your life. And we have never set this expectation that we were going to be successful by doing it ourselves. And it just blows my mind why we carry that weight when we step into being a business owner, or we decide that we want to, start freelancing and start doing makeup and getting paid for it. Or if we decide that we want to start helping other people with project management skills and helping other people grow their business. Why in the world do we have this resistance of getting help when we're starting something new when it comes to building a business on our own? But we've never had that up until this point of our life. We've literally, if you really take a moment, you've spent at least 12 years in school getting trained to understand the basic concepts that we need to operate in society. If you have gone off to college, you spent another 4 to 8 years, depending on what degree or profession you got, spent thousands of dollars to gain to hire multiple teachers to train you in that skill set so you could become good, so you could understand, so you could learn the concepts. Why in the world do we think when we start a business, I got to do it by myself? Is this resonating with you? I don't understand why we do that. And I think a lot of the time we put this pressure on ourselves. We create these, I want to call them unrealistic expectations about how we're going to be successful, about how we're going to grow our business, about how we're going to get our first client, about how we're going to, create consistency in our business. It is important for us to make sure that we are, allowing ourselves, I think being vulnerable enough to ask for help, to say, I don't know it all, and that is okay. Just to even be able to admit that. 2, to go seek out the support and the assistance that you need, whether it's a teacher, being trained and being educated, maybe it's just being in community. I said this the other day, it took me 2 years before I launched my podcast. Why? Because I was terrified. I don't know why. I was scared to speak into a microphone when I couldn't see the people on the other end who were listening. That just freaked me out. And it wasn't that I didn't know what I needed to do, right? I had all the resources I needed to actually launch the podcast. I knew how to set it up. I knew how to submit it to iTunes. I had a process to put it in Libsyn. I knew what I needed to do. But it wasn't until I got in community and made a commitment and had some accountability partners before I actually did it. Because it wasn't that I didn't know what I needed to do. Sometimes I in this moment, I needed somebody to walk with me as I was doing the doing. And this is true for all of us. Regardless of where you're at, it's either you're going to be at a point where in order for you to become successful, right? And what I mean by successful is I think that a lot of us can be in a position where, we are very intelligent. You are super smart. You are incredibly gifted and incredibly talented, and you have an area of expertise that can bring value to the world. And I do not doubt that in a second. But if you've ever watched Grey's Anatomy, I'm Team McDreamy all day, every day. I'm a huge fan. Even Derek Shepherd, even though he was the best neurosurgeon, when he got shot and got injured, he didn't do surgery on himself. Even though he was the best. Other doctors had to operate on him. He did not do surgery on himself. The best lawyers in the world, when they have legal issues, they still hire external counsel. They're not trying to sit here and keep doing it alone. So I just think it's we have to remember that you can't do surgery on yourself. And you can, and I can guarantee you, for some of you guys, you'll be able to get started. You'll be able to get traction. You may be able to even make decent money and make a living. But in order for you to be wildly successful and to accomplish the biggest dreams that you have, none of us can do it alone. Nobody out here is doing it alone. And it is ridiculous for you to expect or put that pressure on yourself or make that a standard that you need to do it alone. Like we've never done it alone at any point in our life. Like it's just, if you're stepping into something new or like pivoting in your business or growing or in what capacity, like the whole thing, you know, I got here by myself, I'm self-made. It's like, not really, bro. Like not really. And that is okay. Like all of these experiences that we have had contribute to our success. And all the experiences that we want to have in the future will contribute to other people like coming along that journey with us. And this, if you really want to take it back, this all goes back to the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, when God created them. Like we as humans are not designed to operate alone. We're not. We are not designed to operate alone. We are not designed, like even just from creation, to be existing in a solo container. So I think it's important that we just like remember that like biblical truth, and then recall all the times when people have been like who's really contributed to your success up until this point. And when I was thinking about this last night, like I was just looking at what really got me to being an entrepreneur. Like, how did I get in this position where I started my business? And I started like saying and writing down like all the things that contributed to my success to today. Right? Because I could say like, you know, I'm solo, I got here on my own. Like, and sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes it feels like I'm doing it alone. Right? But if I really get honest and put things in perspective, it's like it all goes back to like, there's so many ripple effect reasons as to how I got here. You know, if it weren't for my grandmother and my aunt raising me, who knows where I would have been if I would have been living in a different situation. If I hadn't lived in the city that I lived in as a child, even though we didn't have the money, I was exposed to what life could look like because I was surrounded by it. That helped me think bigger from even a childhood state. You know, when I went off to school and when I got my first modeling gig job, I was doing auto shows for Chrysler. That opened my eyes like crazy. Because I'm like, wait a minute, how much money can I make in a weekend? And it's not because I'm exchanging my time for money. This is just like a value-based pricing. Like, I don't want to work hourly. That was my first exposure to freedom and of income. Then, you know, getting my engineering degree, I was not qualified to get hired at the company that I got hired at. I did not have the GPA requirements. I didn't even apply to get an internship there. It was a woman, Sharon Freeman. I will never forget her. She took a chance on me. It really goes back to Mr. Wellman. He was my high school teacher, he was my architecture teacher. And at the time, I loved architecture. I loved building buildings, but I did not think I was smart enough to be an engineer. There was both classes, and I'm like, I'm not taking engineering. I'm not smart enough for that. But he always like encouraged me, and always like I would skip other classes so I could go sit in his room. And he just always poured into me. So that was where it started from an educational standpoint. Then it was Sharon Freeman giving me a chance. And it took me, you know, I met her at a Nesby event on a Thursday night. I was broke, didn't have no food. They had free pizza at that event. And I was still modeling at the time. And she was like, well, how much money are you making doing auto shows? And I told her. And she's like, you can be making that money on a consistent basis if you get an internship with us. And I was like, oh, okay. But the thing was, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I could work for a utility, and never in my wildest dreams ever understood, like I never even understood what my role could be there. But the thing about her, and why, in order for us to be successful as we continue to grow in our business, is she saw potential in me that I did not know existed. And she was able to see a bigger reality for where I could be than what I even knew what was possible. And I think so often as we are growing in our business, we will make decisions based off of our limiting circumstances of just what we have been exposed to, about not just what we even know to be possible, but what we believe to be possible. And it took Sharon to have a bigger belief than what I had for myself, and for her to see something in me that I did not see in myself, to put me in the position to even get the full-time job that I had. That was it. And it's like the same thing is so true in our business. And I've had a business coach in the very beginning stages of my business. It was probably about 10 months into my business. This was if it were not for this coach specifically believing in me bigger than what I believed in myself, I never would have earned the income to quit my job. The month that I booked over $60,000 in that 1 month which was the cash cushion I needed to go and quit my job. 2 months prior, I had started working in a coaching program. And I was telling her about what I was doing and the results I was getting people. She's like, oh, you need to be charging, like you need to offer that as a high ticket offer. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't see what you see. And it goes back to, we can't see our own blind spots. Just because I knew I had a skill and I was great at what I was doing, I didn't really understand the full value of what I brought to the table. And it's just like going back to McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy. Like, he's an amazing surgeon, but he can't do operation on himself. He can't see the inside of his own head and or see the wound in his body and operate on himself. We can't see our own blind spots. And if it were not for that business coach to say, no, like, you may not believe right now, but borrow my belief. You may not have the confidence in yourself right now, borrow my confidence. You may not see the vision of what I can see you growing to, and that is okay. Just borrow my sight. And because I was only thinking based off of what I knew was like what I believe my reality to be. I was only basing of what I could do based off of what my circumstances were. But because I was like, I can't charge $9,000 for a program. I haven't been doing this for 10 years like the big dogs are doing in the online space. I haven't had a 7-figure business yet. How can I charge $9,000? And it took her believing in me greater than I could believe in myself to be able to take that step. And I'm so grateful I did, because that was the thing that allowed me to build the cash cushion, to give me the choice to quit my job. And the results of the students that went through that program have been like astronomical. If I would not have borrowed her belief and allow myself not to think of myself as a solopreneur, I may be the only one operating my business, but that does not mean that I should be the only one advising and directing my business, right? Like, that's just having a board of directors, which I look at those as my coaches, the consultants that I bring in that capacity. And this is before I even had like team members who actually do support me in the operation of my business today. But like, it is ridiculous for any of us to think that we've been out here just winning on our own and that you will be successful continuing to wing it and win. Like, it will not last. You cannot sustain that. And that ultimately is like, it's not serving you at the end of the day, because it shouldn't have to, like, and I love this verse where, in the Bible, it talks about God's yoke is easy. Is it? Yeah, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And I try to remember that every day as I'm growing my business. Because if my business feels like a burden, and if I feel like what I'm doing right now has this heavy load on it, there's probably incongruency or an unalignment with how I'm operating right now. Mainly because we put too much on ourselves. Like, and that's like, it shouldn't be that way. Like, it's not on you to have to figure everything out. And that is okay. And I think that's also why, like, God designed us the way that he did. He didn't give us all the gifts, right? He didn't give us all the gifts in one bucket. He intentionally gave us all uniquely different gifts. So when we choose to bring other people in, we're really honoring and glorifying how he created us, because we're not meant to be able to do it alone. We are not meant to do that. We're meant to be like co-creating and coexisting in society with others. So I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to drill home with this today is just like, one, like, it is okay. Like, one, it's a myth that you'll be successful and be like out here solo dolo. Whether you're reading books to get education, whether you're enrolling in courses to like grow your skill set, or simply because maybe you know exactly what you need to do, but you need to be maybe like, you need to borrow somebody else's belief in this season of your business. Or maybe it's just, you know what you need to do, but you need somebody to walk with you as you're doing the doing. Regardless of what that is. Like I said, just being in community of other people who just, because I think sometimes too, this came up on a coaching call where somebody was saying, well, Jay, the services that I offer are seasonal. And she does like makeup for brides, like bride consultations or something like that. She said, people only get married, like people get married in seasons. Like, it's not a year-round business. And I was like, whoa. People get married every day of the year in the United States of America. Every single day, there is somebody getting married. So what do you mean that your business is only seasonal? And that goes back to like, sometimes we are making decisions based off our circumstances, not off the reality of the abundance of what's really possible. Mainly because we may never have been exposed to it. She's like, well, I don't know anybody that hasn't gotten married in like either the summer or like in a specific season. I said, just because you don't know them now doesn't mean that they don't exist. And it's like, sometimes you need to be in environments of people who have different perspectives, different backgrounds, who have different life experiences, so they can expand your scope of just what's real, what's possible, right? Like that's what it's all about. So if you're just only operating in your silo of what you've been exposed to, like you are in a situation where you are really putting your business at risk, because all you know is what you know. And there's like, and that is okay too, but just be aware of that and be intentional of putting yourself in environments that help you believe beyond what you currently know is reality, that help you see beyond what you've been able to see or beyond what you've been exposed to. Or in a lot of the cases, sometimes we just need the belief. We need to just see somebody else doing it, moving, operating, striving for that goal that we're also striving for, just to know that we are not alone in the journey. They're like, yeah, it may be tough, but we can get back up and we can do this together. Even if you're running a solo business. So like my whole, I guess, like purpose of why I got on live today. So I was really like thinking about that last night. And I just wanted to like give you guys all that reminder to know that like, if you've been called to serve and lead and move in your life in a larger capacity, that like that God would not have put that vision in your heart if it was not possible for you to obtain. First and foremost, I just want to give you that confirmation if you've been needing it, or maybe you just needed the reminder of it, that he would not have given you the vision if it was not possible for you to obtain. But how God also operates, he says you have to act, you have to show faith. And faith is an action. Like it is a verb. It is something that you do. And similar to how God created the world, you know, he created the earth before he created created animals. He created the sky before he put birds in it. So often we're waiting for the birds to come before we create the sky, or waiting for the animals to come before we create the earth. And that's not how it works. Like even Noah built the ship before the rain came. People thought he was crazy. Like, bro, what are you out here building? He's like, don't worry about what I'm building. It took him 40 years to build it too. I was like, God, I hope my season ain't no 40 years of building before the rain comes. But if it is, I will be patient. But like Noah had to build the ship. That was his act of faith before the rain even came. And I think sometimes we look at like why, you know, so I just think, again, God would not have given you the vision if it was not possible for you to obtain. But if you're sitting there waiting in faith versus walking in faith, you could be blocking your own blessings. Because you're not moving. You're waiting here because of fear or scarcity or whatever limiting beliefs right now are holding you back. Like, and that walk, and that's why I said sometimes, I know for me, even with launching my podcast, I knew that I had to walk in faith, but I'm like, God, I don't want to walk alone. Right? I did not want to walk alone. So I found somebody to walk with me. And then I got to moving. And I'm so thankful that I did. Like we've been getting amazing responses back from the podcast, but I'm just saying that to say, like, you know, it's a myth that you will be successful as a one-person business. And I think one person in the sense that you have to be out here doing it by yourself in full capacity. You should be intentionally surrounding yourself with individuals who you can borrow belief from when you need to, who do see in you what you may not be able to see in yourself, who can offer a unique perspective to help you think differently about what, you know, God has called you to do. Like you know, and I think it's so important. I think there's no happenstance that you are right now are listening to this. I don't think that's by coincidence at all. Right? And it's just all of us are really supporting each other. And that's why I always say your wins are my wins. Because me being obedient is being a blessing to somebody else. My obedience, even when I'm scared, even when I'm like uncertain, even when I feel fear, even when I break down, There has been many of days I have been on my living room cement floor, which is not comfortable, bawling my eyes out because I'm like, God, I don't think I can do this. I do not think I'm qualified for this. This feels too hard. I don't think I'm equipped for this. And he's like, that's okay. I didn't ask you to be equipped. I've already given you the provision. All I need you to do is just act in obedience. And so I know that's what keeps me going a lot of the days. It's because I know that me being obedient, if I am not obedient to what I have been called to do, I could be potentially blocking somebody else's blessing, because I might have been the answer to their prayer. I might have been the provision that God created for somebody else to get to where they're going. And I think all of you are in the exact same position. You have been called to operate from a space of obedience, because you literally are you're the prayer answer to somebody else. You are the lifeboat for somebody else to catch on to save them when they're drowning. You are the person that you're supposed to be that teacher for somebody else to become successful in whatever they've been called to do. That's it. So make sure that you are also thinking about it from that perspective. All of us are having to invest in whether it's time, money, energy, or whatever form of investment it is, in other people to help us get to where we've been called to be, because we all should be operating from the space of obedience. But that's why God gave us all unique gifts, because we need each other. We need each other. And that's a way for you worshiping by investing in somebody else, paying for somebody else's expertise, spending time with somebody else. That is a way for you worshiping, because you are investing back into the kingdom of what he created. That's why he created it the way that he did. I don't know if this is going over y'all head. I know this is a bit off tangent, but this is just what's on my heart. So just know that you don't have to do it alone. You do not have to do it alone. And all you have to do to change your situation right now is make a decision, is to make the choice to say, I no longer want to walk alone. And I also recognize and honor every person that has been in my life up until this point, because they have contributed to me being where I am right now. To never forget that, to always honor that, to always remember that, but to always also understand that in order for so many people have played a role in your life to allow you to be who you are right now and to be in the position that you are in right now. So one, it's actually good, go back and send some love notes, send a voice memo, send a card or an email, and because sometimes we need that reminder to keep going, to know that we are making a difference, to know that we have been seen, to know that when you showed up, it actually made an impact or left an imprint on somebody else. And far too often we don't go back and communicate to that person to recognize them or to give light to them, to say, you were a light for me. Thank you for showing up. But to also remember, as we're continuing to go forward, as you are continuing to progress, that the same thing will be true. You may feel like you're in a dark space and that it is tough right now. All you have to do is choose to let the light in. And that light might be somebody else. It might be a community. It might be a course. It might be whatever it is. It might be you attending an event. But you have to choose to let that light in. And then the third thing is you have to operate from a space of obedience to take that step, to keep moving, right? And to not lose faith in the moments where it gets tough. To allow yourself to let other people in, because you may be the rock in your family or in your friendships or in your life. You're the one that everybody goes to when they need help. You're the one that everybody goes to when they need support. You're the one that everybody leans on. And it is okay for you to say, you know what, today I need a shoulder to lean on. I need you to hold me. I don't have the courage today. I don't have it to give. I actually need to borrow it. And that is all right. So I do have one invitation for you guys. If you are have a service-based business and you are in a position where you are looking to create and sell a 4-figure service in your business, I invite you to join our Facebook group. It's completely free. There are hundreds of other individuals who are in there who want nothing more than to see you win, to experience this journey with you of entrepreneurship, to not do it alone, to intentionally be in community of high vibe, high energetic women and men who are looking to make to live out this calling that you've been called to do. And that's it. So I hope you guys can join us. Like I said, there will be 3 questions that you get prompted to answer when you click to join. Make sure that you answer those questions. And then I look forward to seeing you guys over there. But I just want to wish you all a blessed day. Remember that you are blessed. You are highly favored. You are an heir of the kingdom. Don't ever forget your authority in that. And then, yeah, I just wish you well today, y'all. So I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye, y'all.